Olivia Culbreth slammed head-on into another car on the 60 freeway in Diamond Bar.
Driving on the road is a big responsibility. I'm sure you have seen many clips online of defendants crying in court and even pleading to the judge that they made a mistake that night, even swearing to never repeat their incidents again. But in many cases, when you take an opposing driver's life, the deaths they have caused cannot be reversed. As drunk driving collisions hurt the lives of hundreds of thousands of people each and every year. And worse than anything else, once you accidentally kill someone, you not only end their life, but hurt their families in ways you would never imagine. And no matter how much the government tries to advertise about how wrong drunk driving is, drivers still continue to disobey the drinking and driving guidelines. Here are 10 drunk drivers and their reactions to the brutal life sentences that they have been given. At number 1, we have Amber Pereira. While driving on the road in 2017, Amber saw herself involved in a horrific accident, as she caused a chain reaction on the road, leading to the deaths of 3 Philippak family members. Amber was driving on the road when she experienced a head-on collision of Luis Philippak, his wife Rita, and their young daughter Georgia of 8 years of age. All 3 died on the spot. Police report that Amber had suddenly lost all control of her car and hit the Philippak family, causing a horrific collision. As the car then went on to crash into 2 other vehicles and caught on fire, leaving the victims to burn to death. Unfortunately, Amber did not stop and kept driving. The only way the police were able to find her was because of the fact that her car had suddenly stopped in the middle of the road due to a malfunction because of the crash. Rightfully, Amber pled guilty to her actions in front of the judge. She even tried to claim that this all happened because of a seizure, but I don't think the judge bought it. At the end of the day, the judge ruled her case as a DUI manslaughter, wrongfully trying to escape from the scene, and wasn't too happy about her actions. When investigators did more research, they said that she was driving while under the influence of alcohol, and that at a certain time her car had reached a top speed of almost 100 miles per hour. Worse than anything else, when they tested her body, they saw that she had 3 different types of drug-related substances in her body, all of which altered the way her brain was working. This really aggravated the judge, and in the end, he gave her a life sentence of 50 years. Shortly after, Amber broke down, and she could not stop the tears coming down from her eyes. She had realized that the 5 decades of prison was going to be a long, long time. The only thing she had to say was, "My life is wrecked," and slowly the officers put handcuffs on her and took her away. Her lawyer tried to appeal the judgment and asked the judge for a 20-year sentence instead, since she had no criminal charges prior to this. But the judge wouldn't budge, as he insisted that 50 years was the appropriate time to serve for taking a family's life. At number 2, Grace Coleman. A 23-year-old California resident was given 21 years by the judge for a drunk driving hit and run. On December 8, 2020, her incident impacted the family of 5, consisting of a couple and their 3 daughters, when they were out one night casually walking the streets of Newport Beach. The family was looking at the beautiful Christmas lights of the homes before Grace crashed into them with her 2010 Land Rover. The couple were killed with instant impact, and the 3 daughters taken to critical care at the hospital. She told the judge that she takes responsibility for the 3 lives that she has taken. When the hospital x-rays came back, all 3 children had broken legs, and one of the kids 2 broken hands. The police report also stated that Grace had a blood alcohol level of almost 3 times the normal driving limit at 0.22%. To make matters worse, police say she ran a red light, and when she hit the victims, she tried to flee the scene. The judge didn't give her a life sentence, but a long 21 years behind bars. And when the daughters read their prayers to the jury, the family attorney stated that this is perhaps the most emotional thing I have ever witnessed. Although Grace was seen wearing a mask, the news recording clearly shows that she was emotional and in tears. The whole time during the trial, she was listening to the words of the attorneys and children, and just laid there, shocked and sad. The district attorney stated later on that she requested to have a private meeting with the 3 children who had lost their parents. The meeting was requested only include the children and neither the judge or district attorney. Best of all, the district attorney stated they felt that Grace was extremely sorry. And we realized that she had made a horrible decision that night, and we are not angry anymore. Number 3. Olivia Caroli. On February 19, 2014, Olivia was involved in a drunk driving incident and sentenced to 30 years to life. But this story is a bit different. No one could understand why Olivia would be drinking just 11 days after she had given birth to a child. The police report stated that she was speeding up to 100 miles per hour. The Fontana, California resident had accidentally entered the wrong side of the freeway and subsequently ended the life of 6 people in a brutal accident. Her Camaro crashed into an Explorer, instantly taking the lives of a family of 4. But worse than anything else, in her car, she caused the deaths of her sister and best friend on the 60 freeway. The California Highway Patrol said they had never seen an accident like this. When investigators did an alcohol test, they came to see that her blood alcohol levels were at 0.15% a couple of hours after the crash. Unfortunately, the judge wasn't too happy in court, as this wasn't her first DUI. In her previous case in court, the judge even gave her a harsh warning that the next time this happens, the consequences will be much worse. When the family members of the victims were asked to say any last words, one family member stated, "I'm not angry, but rather I feel bad for you. Imagine knowing for the rest of your life the harm that you have done. Imagine taking your own sister's life." Olivia cried for hours and she stated, "I will pray to God for forgiveness and to comfort those in which I have hurt. If I could, I would die 1,000,000 times, over and over again, just so they could be back here on earth. I accept what I did that day, and I want everyone to know I take full responsibility for my actions." Unfortunately, the judge did not give in and sentenced her to 30 long years behind bars. Number 4. Charlessia Pelt. Charlessia, a Detroit resident, was driving under the influence with her 3-year-old son in the back seat. Unfortunately, he did not have his seatbelt on in the car seat as she passed the red light. Unfortunately, the crash caused her son to fly out of the car with immense force and land on the road, and to make matters worse, her minivan then ran over him. By the time the ambulance had taken him to the hospital, he was already declared to be dead. While she was in court, not only did she repeatedly ask for forgiveness from her own family, but pleaded for the judge to forgive her. Michael Jones, the father of the baby boy, was angry and frustrated in court. He told the judge that when I arrived at the hospital, I realized that there were tire tracks on my innocent son, all across his arms and face. And that's when Charlessia broke down even more with tears and emotion. She stated to the judge and her son's father that, "I'm very sorry, and I understand how much you as the father must feel after what I did. I am so bothered by my actions, but just know I love my son. He was everything to me in this world," and repeatedly apologized to Very. "I tried to do everything in the right manner for my babies. But that day, I made the worst mistake a mother could ever make. Reports say that she was getting ready to drop her children off to her parents' house so that she could enjoy a night out with friends. But at the end of the day, the judge was not a bit lenient when sentencing her, as she was found guilty of second-degree murder for taking a young child's life and driving under the influence. The judge gave her a 15-year sentence, as all she could do was keep her head down and cry with non-stop emotions. Number 5. Michelle Lake. You would think that if someone makes a mistake in life, the next time around they would learn not to repeat that same mistake. But not Michelle. She had previously been sentenced to jail for killing a man in the year 2006, and in 2018 she was again sentenced to almost 10 years for a drunk driving incident that took the life of another civilian. On a regular December morning of 2018, she was driving under the influence of alcohol in the rich neighborhood of Westwood, California. All of a sudden, she had made a turn that led her to a head-on crash of another car. When police came onto the scene, they realized she had almost 3 different substances in her body. And after more research, they realized that her license was already suspended from her previous 2006 crash. When her official trial date had come, the judge stated that, "You are a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. It didn't matter to you that you were addicted to heroin, and even though you knew you need help, you haven't done anything about it. Worse than anything else, it did not matter to you that you were forbidden by the law to drive." When Michelle heard these harsh words, her legs went weak as she fell to the ground and sobbed with tears. She repeated to the family of the victims, "I wish that I could go back in time and take back what I did, and words cannot explain how sorry I am." Her body's blood alcohol level was 2.4, far beyond the acceptable limit. The judge, however, did not have any remorse as he sentenced her to 10 years behind bars. Worse than anything else, when she is to be released from prison, she will never ever be able to acquire a driver's license. Number 6. George Solis. 20-year-old George had a very harsh sentence of almost 50 years as he killed 3 people and hurt 2 others in a drunk driving incident. On Father's Day, he suddenly saw himself driving on the wrong side of the road and in a head-on collision took the lives of innocent people. Worse than anything else, he previously had a DUI and was on probation by the courts. His blood alcohol level was at 0.12. Paul L. Howard, a famous district attorney, stated that when the police officers arrived to the scene of the horrific crash, George was so drunk that he wasn't even conscious, but rather passed out. And his breath reeked of alcohol. When the prosecutors went to stir a case up for him, he had no choice but to sign a plea bargain. And the judge had no mercy for him. Henry Newkirk, the county judge, sentenced him to 50 years with the following charges: driving on the wrong side of the road, possession of alcohol by someone underage. When George heard that he would spend the rest of his days behind bars, he didn't cry, but rather tried to persuade the judge that he is innocent, but the judge had no empathy for him. Number 7. Javier Cortez. It was just a casual day for 28-year-old Javier when he was out with friends and family at a party in a relative's home. Around 2 a.m. in the morning, even though he was drunk, he had decided to leave the party. And within minutes, he crashed his car into a family driving a white Jeep. Instantly, the lives of 17-year-old Madison Coleman and 20-year-old Monica Gonzalez. When investigators tested him, they saw that his blood alcohol levels were at almost 0.8%. The judge charged him with crucial bodily harm, high speeds on a motorway, and a blood alcohol level more than the legal limit of 0.15%. The investigation later showed that he had consumed about 4 beers and had taken a couple of so-called tequila jello shots. The police report even said the collision was with so much force that one of the girls that had died was even wearing a seatbelt, and the other survivors experiencing a broken arm and immense damage to the pelvic bone. The crash was so immense, the victims were required to be airlifted by a medical helicopter for immediate surgery. The investigation even went further to collect data from Chrysler's data recording database, showed that Javier had reached a top speed of almost 104 miles per hour just seconds before the collision. When he was in front of the judge, he reportedly stated that it was an accident and he in no way meant to hurt anybody. He didn't cry, but just stood still, trying to show that he had made a mistake that night. Unfortunately, the judge had no compassion for him, as Javier was sentenced to 21 years behind bars. Number 8. Ashley Freeman. Ashley was sentenced to 12 years behind bars as she was involved in a drunk driving incident killing a young man. In February of 2018, she was driving on the wrong side of the road and struck a man, killing him with instant impact. When investigators tested her blood alcohol level, they saw that she showed 0.28%. When the incident occurred, Ashley was just a young 22-year-old. Unlike many of the other victims we mentioned earlier, Ashley was extremely sorry for her actions. She immediately took a plea deal with the court and cried for hours on the day of her sentencing. She stated, "My miscalculations when driving has taken the life of Justin. I made a mistake, and I will never be able to apologize for what I did on that night." Even the mother of Justin, America Callahan, stated in front of the court's panel that "I forgive you for what you did to my son and our family, but the only one that is here to judge you for your actions is God." When Ashley heard this, she broke down in tears and her body froze from sadness. She cried and cried and cried and repeatedly asked for forgiveness, and you could really see that she was sorry for what she did. When the judge was going to sentence her, he removed the murder charge, as you could tell he had sympathy for her, realizing that it was a mistake she is truly sorry about. Still, with all that being said, he sentenced her to 12 years in prison. The next time you are at a party or out with friends and family drinking, remember that when you are under the influence of alcohol, it can lead to impaired judgments when driving. The last thing any one of us needs is to cause a crash that takes someone's life. So please, don't drink and drive. And if you liked this video and want to see more videos just like this, please click on the videos right above the screen.